I'm Jean Gray, founder and publisher of American Entrepreneurship Today, a website that brings news and valuable information to entrepreneurs, innovators, and investors all across America. Our podcast series, Experience Voices, explores the journeys of very successful people in the entrepreneurial arena who are open to sharing the key elements that led to their great success. Our guest today on Experience Voices is Andy Voggenthaler, CEO and co-founder of Nonaste, a complete line of scientifically advanced products to keep active people clean and odor-free. He's also the founder of Race Guards, an in-race first aid company comprised of a team of endurance athletes and medical professionals who run the entire race course to be close at hand for any medical need or emergency. As an endurance athlete for over 25 years, including competing in the Ironman World Triathlon Championships in Hawaii, Andy discusses how his high energy and people skills continually pushed him forward in his career, making it almost inevitable that he would become an entrepreneur. His passion to participate in endurance sports presented him with opportunities to contribute to the competitive arenas he so enjoyed, providing solutions to pain points he identified during his athletic activities that led him to become a product innovator. Andy has a proven track record of building and exiting companies in insurance, health, wellness, endurance sports, consumer good industries. He developed long-term licensing and business ventures for many blue-chip companies, including General Motors, Nabisco, Pebble Beach, and AIG, among others, with several reaching number one in sales in the U.S. and internationally. As the former vice president of worldwide licensing for Hang Ten, Andy helped build the company to over $450 million in sales with an international footprint of 65 countries. Welcome to Experience Voices, Andy. I've been looking forward to our discussion, especially knowing you've been in a triathlon.
Yeah. Thank you for having me, first and foremost. I'm excited to talk with you. Specifically on the Ironman and the Ironman Hawaii, it was a dream of mine from when I was, when I was 12 years old. I saw Julie Moss. Everybody's seen those footage of Julie Moss crawling across the finish line. And I remember back then when I was like 12 or so, I remember thinking, she's got something. She's crawling to the finish line, and maybe one day I want to do that. I mean, there's something to the human spirit when your body is just totally melting down and you keep going and she just kept crawling, and she didn't win that race. Somebody, came and beat her at the very, very end, even though she did it, but she won that day, And so for me, it was always a goal to get to Ironman Hawaii. One way, somehow. I was always involved in sports, and I was fortunate to get there.
What age did you finally do it? Because you're telling me you started at the age of 12, but I'm sure your parents didn't let you jump in there.
No. It was a long journey. I did it when I was 37 years old, and my kids I have 3 kids, and they're very young, and I didn't want to disrupt anything in their world and their sports and their things. So I would train at, 4 in the morning, and try to get it all in, knowing that, I just love sport. Right. And so I never, I always said that's the ultimate goal. Ironman Hawaii, if I can get there some way, somehow, I want to do it. And the cards fell in my direction, later on when I was 37, and was able to do it. It was awesome.
So let's segue into your career. And where does the Ironman fit in terms of your career? Because I know you started in corporate and then you jumped into being an entrepreneur. So at that age, were you still in corporate, or had already you unplugged and parachuted out to be an entrepreneur?
No, I was still very much in the corporate side of things as my product development background, and then as in the corporate trademark licensing world. And then a colleague of mine had started this direct to consumer life insurance company, and I was in the midst of all of that when and I would ride to work, run at lunchtime, do all these kind of things, and then ultimately I was able to get in like right in the midstream of my career with this life insurance company, and was able to do it at that point in time. And then shortly thereafter, I did Ironman in 2004. We sold our company to AIG in 2007. And then in 2008, the whole world, financially was a mess centered around AIG.
So what was your entrepreneurial venture that after you got done with the insurance that got purchased by AIG?
Yeah,
you got into product development because that drew upon your skills. So first, maybe I should ask you to tell me a little bit about the skills that you developed in the corporate world that were helpful over in the entrepreneurial arena.
Yeah, my first stint and my true passion was this product development, corporate trademark licensing, working with brands like General Motors and Nabisco, DuPont, Pebble Beach, those kind of brands where you can really you could leverage a trademark gene into other product categories and really find these companies that may have been number 2, number 3, or number 4 in market share, and then leveraging that trademark into becoming number 1. And I loved it. I honestly loved doing that. And then that was, and that's with sport. I mean, it's never easy, right? There's always going to be obstacles to get through. But I really loved that. And then ultimately, when I got into a colleague of mine, like I mentioned, had started this life insurance company, I took those skills of, kind of pushing through and figuring it out into this crazy life insurance world, which I had no real interest, frankly, in life insurance at that time, but I knew that there was an opportunity. I knew that there was an opportunity to maybe think differently in the insurance industry. And I think from all the dedication and discipline that you have to have as an athlete and as an entrepreneur, you bring those kind of skills to the table. And then ultimately, after we sold to AIG, and all those financial kind of the turmoil was going on and really got pushed in more of a corporate role, I was like, I need to do something to give back to the community. And that was really my first venture kind of on my own. And when I created Race Guards, which is the company that does in-race medical for triathlons, marathons, and things like that. And that was kind of my first, like, hey, I'm taking a leap here. My kids are still pretty young. I got to pay for college, but I need to do something that's going to be a game changer for people and in the industry.
Well, share a little bit more about that first product and how you took it from concept to actual launch. Now, it looks like your corporate experience and even the one with the insurance really let you see the workings of a structured environment. But now you're doing a product development. You're on your own. And I imagine somewhere you're sitting over a kitchen sink. So tell us a little bit more about that pain point you were solving.
Yeah. So through all the experiences with running marathons and triathlons and all this stuff, I saw a lot of things happen out on the race course. People would, collapsing. People would have chafing and blister. And my own races, I would cramp up and have these issues out on the course. And there's no one around. There's no one around. And so I thought about it for quite some time. And as we were going through the kind of the turmoil of the AIG scenario, the financial crisis at the time, I said, here's an opportunity. And I had won a community award for starting a race here in San Diego. And AIG said, hey, we want to, commend you for all the work you do in your community and what you did with Finish Chelsea's Run. And we want to pay you, some cash for all your ability there. And I said, I've got this idea for race guards, like lifeguards, but race guards, to bring in teams of endurance athletes that are also medical professionals that actually look after, that run the races with the race participants and keep an eye out for people that need things along the way. Now, I don't know if this is going to work. All I know is that I know that stuff happens out on the race course. And so I got a bunch of buddies, we all got certified CPR, first aid, life-saving. a bunch of doctors, bunch of, folks in my running and triathlon community. And we decided to try this concept out at a small 5K race. And we did that, Gene. And the thing that was so different is normally we're all beating up on each other, trying to be the fastest one and all that stuff. But this turned it all the way around upside down, where we're giving back, where we're out there just kind of keeping an eye on people, out there. And it's a totally different perspective. And I was running with my good buddy from college, and I'm running with him, and I'm like, hey, I don't know if this is a good idea or a bad idea. And he's like, dude, this is awesome. And so literally after that moment, like it couldn't have been 10 seconds after I said that, boom, some guy falls in front of us. And I laughed only because it's like, well, the next thing you know, we've got like 3 or 4 race guards, kind of going to help this gentleman. And we get him. It took some time. We got him to the finish line. And I tell you, Gene, I get back to our little tent at the finish line area where we had our race guards kind of tent. And I looked at all the race guards. We had maybe 30 race guards. Every single person, I get goosebumps thinking about it. Every single person had this like glow about them, right? They were like so stoked to give back. And I'm like, at that moment, I talked to AIG, and it's funny that they actually were our first sponsor, and AIG was a 4-letter word at that time. So they said, yeah, we'll sponsor you. And in our jerseys, it says Sun America, which is one of their sister companies. So they sponsored our first kind of go at this whole thing. And then after that race, Gene, I said, there's a bigger calling here to do something that's going to change endurance sports and people's lives, perhaps. And I need to leave, even though I was making really good money. And my wife's looking at me with, 3 heads. What are you doing? We have these tiny kids, and we got to, what are you doing? So I went for it. And that's kind of how race cards got going.
So you've monetized it, and it's still going today.
We are still going today. It's a little different today post COVID. We had an amazing partnership with 3M. They are incredible. NextCare brand, Ace brand, Futuro. They loved what we do. They actually saw firsthand, us saving people's lives, CPR and things like that. And they would love to, continue on to this day. But unfortunately, financially, they just don't have those kind of funds to keep that whole thing going. So we get some grants, we get races to pay us, but it's nowhere near the level of when we had it with 3M. And so now moving forward, Nonaste, my current venture, is taking most of my time, but Race Guards is still going strong. We just got back from Fort Worth, Texas, to serve in the Cowtown Marathon, and that was fantastic. In fact, a gentleman, we had saved his life at the Rock and Roll Half Ironman back in 2015. He has done 14 Ironman full distance since his cardiac arrest, since we saved him. And he is actually a race guard with his family. And so we got to see him when we were back there just last month. It was pretty exciting.
So you have Nonaste going. Let's kind of throw in a couple of concepts as far as minimal viable product, MVP. And for me, the whole aspect of taking your idea and testing it before you're expending a lot of money. So you could see that with the Ironman, that it gave you a really good foundation and an arena to play with. So how about Nonaste? Where did you keep to the minimally viable product, or did you just put in a ton of money because you were so confident?
No. I mean, everything we, in my career anyway, was, all starts with research. I mean, you got to have a sense of your audience, and Nonaste, frankly, with Race Guards, we knew of a product that helped clean our medical packs, that it was really effective for cleaning our sweaty medical packs and things like that. And so I knew we had this formula that was out there. And fast forward to Nonaste. Nonaste was really, an idea born out of yoga. I supplemented yoga with my running and swimming and all that, and I really enjoyed it. It's kind of a game changer for me, frankly. As I get older, it's really, really helped. But there was a moment, and it was the aha moment. And my co-founder, who's a friend of mine that was in class with me, there was this aha moment where we're in there 6 o'clock in the morning, and Stinky Kevin, honest to gosh, comes rolling in, a little late to class, flops down his stinky yoga mat and or himself, and as the room starts heating up, he had the funk and the grossness that Jurgen and I we just we got to fix this. This is not good. So honestly, we thought initially, and going back to trying to figure out your audience, trying to figure out, does this make sense? And with Nonaste, spelled the way it is, Nonaste. And initially we thought, hey, this could be a fun play on Namaste. And for yoga specifically, a laundry detergent, because yoga is increasing in popularity. Certainly athleisure products and synthetic, Lululemon and Viore and everything is so expensive. You want to care for them. So we did some research, early on. We did these like a sample website and had audiences in yoga say, hey, are you interested in a laundry detergent that takes the funk out of your activewear? And of course, the way we did it was very skewed yoga. And what we found out of that, Gene, out of that research, and this is where I think it's so important for anybody that wants to start an idea. I mean, you'll inevitably have an idea and it'll shift into 6 different directions at some point. And you're in a different, we're in a different direction now than I thought we would be. In fact, when we got the data, certainly the yogis said, hey, we absolutely love a laundry detergent that is going to care for our expensive activewear, certainly. But we do other stuff. We run, we have kids that play soccer and hockey and they stink and they, all these things. And we want odor spray. We want, what about the gunk when I come back after a sweaty run? What about, my car seat and things like that? So honestly, Gene, that kind of the light bulb went off. It's not just yoga. And it's Nonaste. It's not Nonaste. It's Nonaste. And it's designed to keep active people clean and stink free. That's everything we do is kind of down that path. And it's a much bigger audience than just yoga, of course.
So share a little bit about the launch. There are millions of people, it seems, running around with great ideas in their head, and they've never done it before. And let's just assume that, just like yourself, they prove out that they've got something. They've taken it to an outside audience who has challenged it or given a thumbs up, but they're not necessarily marketing people. And so how would you suggest that they go forward in exploring to, go to market, to launch the product?
Yeah. Well, I think, and this goes right to me as well. I mean, I've always had the creative side to be a marketer and all of that, but in my case, I wanted to get the product in the hands of people that are going to use it, right? So if it's a new potato peeler that's some funky different way, we'll get it in the people that are going to be peeling potatoes. Get them to try it. So for me, having yoga instructors, having anybody that runners, friends, give them the product to try out and test out, and that snowballs, right? So that goes into, people go, hey, I heard about Nonaste. Oh, you're the Nonaste guy, and I don't necessarily want to be the Nonaste guy, but I guess it's it's kind of funny. You walk into class and there's like, oh, he's the guy he's the stink free guy. But that's what you want to do. You want to get yourself, get your products in the hands of people that's your audience. And in my case, it's everyone from runners to cyclists to group, yogis. I mean, we're all about, handing off product to give them to try it. And the thing that's pretty cool, it's very painful. Like Amazon, I will say, there's good and bad with Amazon, and Amazon's, it's an audience. It's a place where people are looking for your products, right? They type in odor removing laundry detergent, boom, you want to be there. And then once you get there, you want people to try it, and our products are great. So if you have confidence in the products that they work, then by all means, you should be fine once you get rolling and get it in the hands of people, because they'll tell people.
So you reference Amazon. I am not as experienced as you are with them as far as being a place for retail launches. Is there something specifically unique about the untried product that the person's got in their garage? But now is Amazon one of the places, for you just get it out there?
Well, depending on the product and the category and the competition that's on Amazon, like for us with a specialty laundry detergent, that one product, specifically that product, it's very, very hard, right? You have to spend a lot of money, and you are up against people that have been, or companies that have been in the business for, years perhaps before you, right? It doesn't necessarily mean that if your mousetrap is better, that you're going to be noticed right away. So you have to get that flywheel going. I think it's important to have, it's absolutely important to have Amazon, because everybody's buying on Amazon, but it's not an easy path. I will tell you, it is expensive. It's hard to get the customers kind of to in the loop to try yours over another brand, but it is a necessary evil. And then ultimately it'll be a great path for a nice chunk of business outside of specialty retailers for us, outside of direct to consumer. It's not an easy path, that's for sure.
A person who has gone through an Ironman, I imagine, has the confidence for rejection. So, So you're not telling anyone who's listening to this podcast that they should speak first to an Ironman before they go out and become a pitching entrepreneur.
No.
But what do you think are some of the characteristics that you think you may have, just one or two, not to make it sort of stereotypical, but there are things that separate out successful entrepreneurs from others, the ones that try, but, and there are a lot of reasons why some great products don't make it, but so much is about that entrepreneurial instinct and drive. So what's a couple of your characteristics that you would like to share? The good ones. You don't have to share the bad ones.
Yeah.
Okay.
Well, I think any entrepreneur has to be stubborn to some extent, right? You've got to, you can't say, people are going to tell you no all day long. People are, and it's another thing to have an idea, right? So a couple things. It's like when people told me no when I was a young kid about certain things that I can or can't do, that just fueled me, right? So if you're one of those, if you've got that in you, like, it's like, hey, people aren't going to tell me what to do. So I'm going to do it this way. And when people think you can't do it, that just motivates me so much more. So I think when there's negative things that, get flung at you and at me personally, I turned it around into, hey, told you, look what I can do. I told you I could do that, and I'm going to do it because I believe in it. And I know I can do it. I believe in my skills that I can do it. Not every venture is going to be that way for sure. And the other thing, Gene, that we all have good ideas. Every one of us on the planet has good ideas at some point. But the one thing I would say, that it's one thing to have an idea. It's another thing to have a full-on product out the door. Soap and bottles, so to speak. That is a complete different thing than just your idea of, this is a great thing. I would say that the biggest resource you can have is your friends and your family, right? Talk to them, listen to them, and be objective, and don't take it personally where, I do that. I tend to go, you don't like it because of this. But when you listen to what people are telling you, they are leading you to the answer, right? They, even though some of them may say, hey, you can never do that. And those are the kind of people that are always going to have that attitude. The people that really care about you, that are in your circle, are going to be honest with you and say, that's a good idea or a bad idea. And then, take the good ones. Just don't take the bad ones.
So thinking about the toughest spot that you found yourself in all of your various adventures or in your corporate experience, and you don't actually have to say what exactly it was. It really has more to do with the mindset of how did you dig yourself out of something that you just did not see or anticipate. Have you had something like that where it's, it really just simply tested your really core feelings about what you were doing?
Yeah. Well, I think every entrepreneur has those feelings along the way, regardless, right? I would say that the biggest feeling of that, and it relates back to my sport side of things, and that is when I was stuck in a current swimming from Alcatraz to San Francisco. And it's like, what are you going to do in that moment, right? It's exactly what happens in business. Like, what are you going to do in that moment? Are you like, when it gets rough and you get pushed down towards the Golden Gate Bridge, are you going to like grab onto the kayak and look for a rescue line? Or are you going to figure it out and you're going to change direction and start working a little harder, maybe a little smarter, and trying to figure out a way to get around that obstacle, even though it may take some energy to do that? You ultimately end up into the calmer waters. And that's, to me, I mean, we're always going to have turbulent water in our lives, right? So I think that that if you can keep perspective on it, keep your head about things, and keep working towards a solution rather than panicking and freaking out about it, then I think you're going to be ultimately okay. We're all going to have issues that I mean, like even today with Nonaste, we've got, our next thing is scaling. It's like, we got a great product. Now we got to scale it. Now we need, we're going to need investment capital to make sure that we get that thing cranking. So there's always going to be these things in our world and in our personal lives as well.
From what we've been discussing, it sounds like people have been a big part of your life, and how you moved from a corporate experience over to that first company in the insurance industry, and then have referenced family and friends to keep you grounded as to whether or not what you're doing. So describe a little bit about the people skills that entrepreneurs should rely upon if they want to, because you're saying you want to go for funding now, and the funders want a person who has a certain mentality, and they're coachable. So say a little bit about people skills in the business world and what it makes the difference in being successful.
It is so important. I mean, I love people. You can probably tell that. I mean, I love people and I love building relationships, and I love to try to create something that's a little bit different or a little bit better than what the norm has been, right? And there's nothing more rewarding. And I go back to some of my licensees, like in Pakistan with Hang 10 brands and things like that. It's all about bringing your relationship together and creating a path to do something great together. You're not going to do it by yourself. I mean, that's tough rowing the boat by yourself. But if you got 15 people in that boat, you're going to get there faster, right? So I think that it's so, I'm just grateful to be around people, really, really good people, like with race guards. These are people that are firefighters and doctors that want to give back, and are endurance people, right? So these are all people that you kind of want to go have a beer with, right? They're just awesome people. And if you can surround yourself with awesome people, even more awesome than yourself, good things are going to happen.
So we've covered a lot, and I think you do offer some nice perspective on a person who is driven or thinks they're driven to do something great in the entrepreneurial arena. So 2 or 3 pieces of advice that, it all comes down to people who are looking up to other people who are successful, and they're trying to figure out the path that they think that person has traveled. So 2 or 3 pieces of advice on someone who's starting out for the first time with a concept or an idea, and what you would want them to keep in mind or to take an action that will increase their chances of success?
Yeah. I would say that the first thing is like, one, viability, right? Kind of understand what that product or service, the size of the market. Like if it's super, super niche, then it may not be worth it to get this tiny little piece of the market, right? It's got to be big enough to have an audience that people are going to go, man, why haven't I had that in forever, right? This thing is awesome. So you got to do your homework on your research on your market first. I think that's the first and foremost. Again, leveraging your friends and family, talking about the idea, building a prototype if you can, and giving it a try. And your first prototype is never going to be a good one. So you got to keep kind of refining it, and keep working at it. And if you truly believe that there's this opportunity out there, then you keep pushing it forward inch by inch. And it's not going to happen overnight. That's the thing that I've talked to others that are in a business and they think it's just going to be boom. I've got this great idea. Maybe Shark Tank will get me and I'm going to be a jillionaire. It's never that way. There's so many steps. I mean, when I think about Nonaste and literally putting laundry detergent in a bottle, well, there's so much that has to happen to make that happen. I mean, you just wouldn't think it would be that complicated, but it is. So patience is a huge thing. You've got to be patient and willing to, be willing to maneuver and move, because like I said earlier, your path is going to be completely different than what you think it is right now today. A year from now, 2 years from now, it's going to look completely different in a great way, hopefully.
So as you were speaking, the question that popped into my head was that, so you have this detergent, and so it has to have a formulation.
Yep.
So again, from my own prior experience, you have to go to an outside contractor, and
yep.
they're producing thousands, tens of thousands, and millions of things, but you're trying to get them to cooperate for doing something in a small batch, or
yep.
to do test runs. How did you approach that hurdle of getting, because you just referenced the whole aspect of doing a prototype and then doing another prototype, and and you're going back to someone who is accommodating you the first time, possibly. Mm-hmm. They don't want to see multiple visits from you. Right?
No.
They don't have that patience, Andy. They're like, well, why didn't it work? Right? So,
totally.
I'm gonna make that my final question to you. So you're going back to the people who bought into your idea and executing it, and it's not working out as well. So just share a little bit of the war story of taking it on the chin and then still going forward.
Yeah, it's so funny because I knew, you're exactly right. And you have to figure out, and again, it goes back to relationships. You got to have a relationship with anybody that wants to either help you out or whatever. You have to build that relationship. And fortunately with our manufacturer, when we were formulating, I had built a relationship. I knew a base formula that worked for our medical packs, that worked really well. And then from that base, I took our competition and I said, look, these guys are all pretty good. I want to be better than all of them. So we need to figure out and reverse engineer and figure out, how do we make it better? How do we make it better than these guys, or more effective? I mean, they're all, hey, and that was just the laundry detergent product. So it took a couple iterations, and it wasn't super, super painful. It just took longer to get it done because they were accommodating us to try to, do things that we wanted to do. We wanted to have the unscented version. I mean, the whole idea is to lift and remove all the odors and bacteria out of your activewear, which is a feat in itself. So ultimately, we ended up building a formula that we've won some awards with a enzyme resistant fragrance that actually built our product to make it better than it was originally. So, I think relationships, and that was the reason why they were willing to kind of go with us to get to that next iteration. And it came out great. It came out fantastic. And we're not going to just sit on it. Ultimately, we're going to, make sure that the next thing that we can continue to improve our products always and make sure that they're good for the planet and good for people and, all of that along the way.
Andy, I think sharing how you developed Nonaste gives listeners some insight on the length of time you have to set aside to develop the product, and that there's a lot to navigate to bring it to the market. So thanks for coming on Experience Voices and talking about the role endurance events have had in your life and career. You've been listening to the podcast series Experience Voices, hosted by Jean Grey, publisher of American Entrepreneurship Today. Sign up for the series at americanentrepreneurship.com/podcasts.